We're going to talk about provider submissions. So what happens on the provider side once the CSP has opened the service? Okay, the provider is going to log into the system, log into IDOLS through the Delta web portal. So they log into Delta in the same way that the CSP did, and they're going to select their provider name from the drop-down list. And select Set Location. If IDOLS doesn't show up as a link as indicated here, you can select My Applications to access IDOLS. Clicking the IDOLS link will give you your username, your current role, you notice provider is listed here, as well as the current location. As I mentioned earlier, the location identifier is now the NPI number for that provider. Now, there's a much more limited set of categories for providers than for CSPs. If we look at the first one, awaiting provider completion, that's where we'll find the request that we completed a few moments ago for John Doe. Here's the name of the case manager. You want to remember, if you have multiple people within your agency that complete requests, that you only select the requests that are assigned to you. Okay, here's the request. We're going to go ahead and fill this out. You'll notice that the general information is already completed. If we go down to service unit history, we have the requested start date, and let's say November 1st. And then the requested end date should match the end date for the ISP year for that individual. You can navigate this calendar by year simply by selecting in the center, or if you select it again, you can navigate by decade. So if you're looking for birth dates, so forth, it's very easy to navigate. So we go ahead and we select the end date. Come down farther, you're going to notice that this is a 60-day assessment, but we're going to skip over high-intensity services, and we're going to go straight to assessment. We'll do high-intensity at the next request for day support. So we check all of the areas that will be assessed, and we provide a brief explanation of what staff will do. So just talk a little bit about the support and the assessment activities that will be completed during the 60-day assessment. I also mention here that the ongoing plan for supports will be completed by day 61. Okay, once that's completed, scroll down a little further, and you'll notice we're looking for support units, which are the daily hours that you typically would have seen on the paper ISAR. So we're going to go with 8 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and let's do 10 hours on Saturday and Sunday in accordance with the plan. If we come down and we total these hours, the system will automatically calculate the hours per month. Periodic support units per month are entered. And then if the individual has nighttime safety support, that's going to be justified here. And you might want to also just describe basically the person's desire and interest and need for the service that you are providing. Basically the focus of the activities and the plan for supports. And there is another option for providing justification, which we'll get to in a moment. Justification for overnight safety supports can be included here, or there's an option to upload your own form. For this example, let's go with 5 hours per night of overnight safety support. Now in the next box it says substantiation for requested hours. You have the option to check a box for sent via fax, or you can browse your own hard drive, and I'll just pick a form at random. Navigate your hard drive to locate the justification and select upload. Once it turns green, you know it's targeted to be uploaded and sent with the request. The next boxes are simply approval boxes. That's where you can track the status of the request. Those will be completed over time. And then at the bottom, I just make a note to the support coordinator, please review initial service authorization request. Then select Approve for Service Request at the bottom. The system will process the request. And then provide confirmation. You notice here it says Service Record Submitted Successfully. We can select Continue. And you'll notice that the request is now gone from the Awaiting Provider Completion box. An email notice has been sent to the CSB. If we click on this, you notice that the CSB has now received notice from all residences that the request is awaiting CSB approval, which is the next step in the process. Now, if you are a provider and you want to see the request once you've submitted it, go to the second link, Awaiting CSB Approval. Selecting this link will show all of the current service authorization requests that you have out to CSBs, with the start date, the end date. Selecting this will open it, and you can review the information that you've entered simply by scrolling through. You notice the status is now awaiting CSB approval. Here are our notes as well as the attachment that we added. Click Done. It takes you back to the view, previous view. Now, let's take a look at a second one. Let's say that day support service has been opened by a CSB. To complete the day support request, it's going to look a little different. Each individual service authorization request looks different depending on what service it is. In this example, we're going to do a day support sample. Let's go through and pick a start date like we did before for congregate residential. Also select the individual support plan end date by navigating through the calendar. We're going to skip over service termination. We're going to go to high intensity. This is high intensity day support services, so we need to mark the reasons the individual needs high intensity services. We'll also consider this a 60-day assessment. We'll come back in a moment. Let's type in a description of the reason the person needs high-intensity services. That can be described here. You want to talk about the ongoing increased support that the person needs that justifies high-intensity day support services. And this description also will need to be reflected in the supports you provide on a day-to-day basis with the individual, and reflected within the plan for supports. Check any kind of assessment activities that we plan to do during the 60-day assessment. Go in and describe those. And then we come down and put in the support units. Now remember, for the purposes of this section, we are talking about the hours per day of the week. Those hours should correlate to blocks, so remembering that the breakdown in blocks for day support. So if it's 4 hours or more, 4 hours to 7 hours, we're looking at 2 blocks. If it's over 7 hours, we're looking at 3 blocks. So using current DMAS provided calculations for the blocks. We want to describe any additional information in that box provided. Travel can't exceed 25% of the day and can't increase your service to 3 units, but if you are providing transportation, please put the time within the travel units boxes. The next section, again, like the previous one, you have the additional options of adding information or justification. You can send it through fax, or you can attach it from your hard drive. Once it turns green, you know that the form will be uploaded, or the document will be uploaded. Come down again, we might want to make a note to the support coordinator at the bottom. Type that in. And then select Approve Service Request. You'll notice almost immediately the email notice has been sent to the CSB. Actually, even before the request was approved, so it's pretty instantaneous in some cases. Here's the notice to the CSB to go in and review that request. Select Continue. A few additional considerations regarding provider submissions that you may want to be aware of is that IDOLS system updates occur on a weekly basis, so any new providers that come on board during the course of a week will be captured in that weekly update to the IDOLS system. Secondly, anytime you add travel time in requests for services that have the option to include travel time, you want to make sure that you only include the time that when your agency is providing that transportation. So you would not include time when transportation is provided by a friend or a family member or by a Medicaid contractor. So only when you actually provide that transportation as part of the service. And then finally, when making attachments available in IDOLS, it's important to know that only one attachment can be added to any request. So you may need to join separate documents within that same attachment or in that same single Word file to be able to add multiple attachments to a request. This would be true for justification for safety supports or overnight supports. Could be related to assistive technology or environmental modification requests as well. Otherwise, you're going to have to submit them individually. All documents that are attached in IDOLS will be visible to both the CSB and to the Office of Developmental Services. Please continue on to Part 3, which will cover approvals, rejections, and pending requests.